Hey everybody, I have some latest updates with France, Syria, and I have a very, very interesting video for you to watch at the very end. Very interesting. And I will talk about that video when the video comes up. Now, here is what's the latest that is going on. So France, according to The Guardian, has appealed directly to Britain to join the war against ISIS in Syria. And I've already stated, it's very interesting that you have all of these locations in Syria that are being controlled by ISIS, right? Some of those are the caliphate seat, which was Raqqa. Then you have Aleppo. Then you have other areas as well, right? So my question is that does ISIS really have control of any of these things as they claim? Because we've seen that the United States claimed that they were bombing locations in Syria. We found out that that was not true. Then we heard that Russia came in to Syria and they started bombing, of course, ISIS and Free Syrian Army, of course, right? Because they're there to protect the Assad regime, right? So that would be pretty much a given, wouldn't you think? Okay. That's what we want to take a look at later in this video. Now, German tornado jets are now claiming to also get into the act with the French against ISIS, right? Well, that's pretty crazy because Germany was supposed to be non-military since World War II. Isn't that one of the treaties or whatever that was signed? That they would not have any kind of standing army. Now we're seeing that they actually have planes, which we knew they did. We knew they did, right? And they also created one of the most craziest tanks that you've ever seen. I'm not going to show you the picture of it, but all you have to do is look it up. It's like one of those type of tanks that outdoes the U.S. and Russia together, right? One of those type of things. So that is interesting. Okay. So this right here from Swiss Info, Holland says U.S. France to step up strikes in Syria and Iraq. Of course, as I've already said, that whatever the U.S. has been involved in before has been complete and utter horse manure, right? We know this. These are stories that are dating back from just a couple days ago, 2 days ago. This, of course, from Reuters International. Said on Tuesday, the United States and France have agreed to step up strikes in Syria and Iraq to target Islamic State militants after the November 13th attack, or the event, as I like to call it. So him appearing at the White House news conference with Obama said the two leaders agreed on the importance of closing the Turkish border to limit the movement of extremists into Europe. Sure, that's what they tell you. That's what they want to tell you, right? But now, isn't it interesting that all of these young men that they claim that are Syrian refugees are flooding into Europe, right? Young men, hardly any women, hardly any kids, and yet we're led to believe that all of those men have no wives, have no kids, and they just come flooding into Europe, right? That's what they want us to believe, okay? All right. So France, Russia to exchange intelligence in Syria bombing campaigns, all right? This, of course, is from yesterday. Stick with me, folks, because this is going to get pretty interesting, all right? Now, this is from the 15th, okay? I want to talk about Aleppo. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Why? Because it is these countries such as Russia and Turkey and France and the United States and others talking about how ISIS is controlling Raqqa, Aleppo, and other cities, right? Okay, so the Syrian army has won a crucial victory in the battle against the Islamic State, lifting the blockade of the Quirius air base, the Syrian government's key stronghold near Aleppo, right? The defense of Quirius became the symbol of unbreakable spirit of the Syrian soldiers, right? Okay, so at least 15 ISIS militants killed in clashes with Syrian rebels in Aleppo, right? So who are these Syrian rebels, right? At least 15 militants from the radical group of the Islamic State have been killed during clashes with Syrian rebels of the Levant from As Safwa brigades in southern countryside of Aleppo, military sources reported on Friday. Right, military sources. So basically they're telling you what they want to tell you, right? We're picking up on all of this, right? Okay, let's take a look at all of these other stories really quick. This is from just a couple. This is from about 7 days ago. 3 field commanders of ISIS killed in Aleppo province in Russian airstrikes. This according to Russian sources, right? Islamic State has announced the death of 3 field commanders as a result of Russian airstrikes in Syria's Aleppo's province. So once I show you what I'm about ready to show you, now the question is one, is the video that I'm about ready to show you authentic? And 2, if it is, then why exactly are these countries feeding us all of this propaganda about ISIS? We know it was already created by Jordan, Israel, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the United States. But why are they feeding the propaganda, though? Why have they created it, and then they say that they're attacking it, but they're not really there? See, that's the question that we want to ask, because according to this video, there is no ISIS in Aleppo, and there has been no ISIS in Aleppo. The only airstrikes are coming in Aleppo are from Russian planes, the Syrian army, which the Assad army. So where exactly then is ISIS if all of these countries are over there striking them and you claim that their main seat is in Raqqa? How come you haven't been completely bombarding that area and taking them out if they truly, really existed there? Just like you tell us that they really exist in Aleppo. The terrorists are suffering heavy losses in manpower as a result of Russian airstrikes. This is according to Russia. Is the whole world a stage? Is every single one of these countries feeding us their propaganda? Let's take a look at some others here from The Guardian. Okay, just to show you, all of these mainstream media sources are feeding you the same stuff. Syrian army breaks through year-long ISIS siege of key Aleppo airbase. We already covered this, right? Jerusalem Post, they're guilty of the exact same thing then, right? But we knew this from the 26th. Today, Syrian grouping of insurgents said on Saturday they have recaptured 2 villages. Well, I'm sorry, that's the date today. This is from the 21st. My apologies. They have captured 2 villages from Islamic State fighters in northern Aleppo province near the border with Turkey, right? An alliance of rebel groups operating in the northern Aleppo countryside said in statements posted on the internet that its fighters freed the village of Delha in Harjela, which it had lost in August. Okay, so you're getting the idea then, right? Aleppo's been on the map here as far as an ISIS stronghold, as far as other countries going in and bombing it to free it of ISIS, right? So let us take a look at the video, and you're going to see what the people of Aleppo have to say about what is going on in their town, right? Let's take a look.
To what some are calling world war on Syrian soil, the propaganda machine is also let loose by different parties with different narratives. One of those narratives says that Assad is in fact fighting terrorism and that he and his supporters have been victims of extremism since the conflict began. Successfully pushing that narrative has allowed the international community to turn a blind eye to the attacks on Syrian homes. Russia, considered by some the most effective in its fight against ISIS, claims it's only targeting ISIS, with a lot of its attacks landing here in rebel-controlled Aleppo. So obviously ISIS is here, otherwise why would Russia and Assad be sending warplanes to these parts of the country? We're going to ask that question to the people that live here. هلا عم يقولوا انه داعش مسيطرة على حلب وهذا السبب اللي بيصير ضرب طيران بحلب، صح الكلام؟ ما في داعش هون؟ يعني حلب مين مسيطر عليها؟ مو داعش؟ لا مو صح الكلام. لا مو صح. حلب مو داعش اللي مسيطرة؟ لا. وداعش موجودة هون بحلب؟
لا ما موجودة
ما موجودة.
لا.
بحلب ما في عندنا حدا اسمه داعش.
وفي ضرب طيران هون؟
نعم في ضرب طيران.
مين اللي عم يضرب؟
الطيران الروسي.
ما في داعش هون؟
ما في، مناطقنا كلها ما في داعش.
انه داعش موجودة هون. طب مين اللي عم يضرب بتعرف؟
طيران روسي.
طيران بالحق المدني برضه، وين بتلاقي مدني تلاقي طيران.
هون ما في داعش؟ ما في داعش.
طلع فرق في واحد بجيبي مثلا. وين داعش؟
لا ما وصل الحكي، نحن هون ما عندنا لا داعش ولا هم يحزنون. ما في هون داعش.
لا.
طب في ضرب طيران هون؟
في ضرب طيران.
اي نعم.
هذا الحكي لا مو نظامي لا ابدا.
ما في داعش هون؟
لا.
داعش مو موجودة هون؟
ما في.
طب ليش عم يضربوا معناتها هي المنطقة؟
بسبب وجود الجيش الحربي، بحجة وجود داعش او
حلب لا ما عندنا نحن دواعش.
طب الطيران عم يضرب هالمناطق؟
عم يضرب ايه؟
مين اللي عم بيضرب؟
الطيار الروسي.
لا مو مظبوط، داعش مو موجود هالمناطق كلها.
شو؟
وين داعش؟
طب في طيران هون عم يصير ضرب؟
في طيران لكن
مين اللي عم بيضرب؟
طيران روسي.
ما في داعش هون. موقفكم من داعش، انتم بتأيدوا داعش ولا ضدها؟
لا نحن ضد داعش، لان هذا مو عمل انساني عم يسويه داعش يعني، ولا بشرع ربنا هذا.
تمام.
هذا ما برضى فيه شرع الله عم يسويه.
وموقفك من داعش؟
طبعا ما بنأيدهم.
اسألك انت شو موقفك من داعش؟ انت بتأيدهم ولا ضدهم؟
لا طبعا انا ضده.
انت ضدهم. ليش ضدهم؟
لاني عم بقتلونا.
مين الطرف اللي عم بيضرب؟
الطيران اكيد يا الروسي النظامي.
يا الروسي يا النظامي. طب بدي اسألك انت مسلم؟
طبعا.
مانك مع داعش؟
لا.
بس مين اللي عم يضرب؟ يعني
طيران روسي.
طيران روسي عم يضرب. طب فيني اقول لك يعني
اليوم كان في تقريبا شي 3 طيارات بالجو.
كان في 3 طيارات وداعش ما موجودة هون.
ما في داعش.
So it seems that ISIS are nowhere in sight, and the victims of these airstrikes are in fact the people that are fighting them, and more so ordinary civilians, but also victims of Islamic extremism. So if I try to conclude this, it seems as if the people here have 3 enemies: ISIS, Assad, and Russia. And that sort of explains why it's here that the planes are in the sky. Rami Jarrah, Anna Press, Aleppo.
Now, if that video is true, right? None of these people right there were saying, yeah, well, ISIS used to be here, but they got ran out. Now, if you go to look at like sources like RT and others, they'll say that ISIS held Aleppo since like 2013, right? But they have been defeated there. I wonder how come none of these people are actually stating that ISIS was there at any time at all. We're getting all of these stories from all the sources that I just showed you. I just showed you tons of sources right here. I keep all of my sources right here. Look. Rebel cite unity as key to defeating ISIS. This is directly from stories out of Aleppo. Here, rebel-held town near Syria's Aleppo under ISIS fire. Right? Okay, now that's one that I found that sounds like what we're hearing from this guy here who reported straight from Aleppo. Do you want to know what I think? I think that those refugees that you saw come into Europe through Turkey are actually the fighters of ISIS that they created. And these countries are going over there telling you that they're fighting ISIS. You see that they're not in Aleppo like we've been told. You've seen that there is people there in Aleppo telling you that the only ones there are the Free Syrian Army rebels that are fighting the Assad regime. And that's exactly who Russia and the Syrian Assad army is fighting against, right? So where exactly then, if ISIS is not in Aleppo, are they all just huddled right there in Raqqa? Then what has Russia claimed they've been bombing? What about the United States and their claims of who they were bombing? Is this all about them flooding into Turkey, into Europe? Is that what this is all about? It could very well be that the refugees that you've seen are all of these created ISIS fighters. And hey, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.